Local presentation of Read About It is made possible in part by a grant from Cox Communications of Oklahoma City, proud sponsor of this effort to promote reading, education, and literacy in our community.
Writing book reviews will be the topic on Read About It tonight. Hi, I'm BJ Williams. With me is Deborah Bouziden to talk about her book, Dream Jobs to Go, Book Reviewer. Susie Beasley will talk with Frank Ray. Kids Corner will feature Rosemary Zarsky. We also have Doug Benton, Clyde Martin, and State Treasurer Robert Butkin. Coming up, Deborah Bouziden.
The following public service program is brought to you by the Metropolitan Library System. And now, Read About It, with your host, BJ Williams.
Deborah Bouziden was most recently on Read About It, telling us about her book, the Journal Wheel Guidebook. I think I got that right. She is here now to tell us about an ebook that she has just completed, and it starts out Dream Jobs, Book Reviewer, but there is a more interesting title to it, which I found quite intriguing, which is
long.
How to Get Paid and Get Free Books as a Book Reviewer. So how do you get paid and get free books as a book reviewer, Deborah?
Well, reviewing books, to start off with, you'll never get rich reviewing books. But one of the things about book reviewing is if you have a library that you want to build, or if you just love to read, why not take what you read and give your opinion of it and make a little bit of money out of it? You know, and basically what you do is get books, and then the book tells how to contact different mediums that will allow you to post your books online, your reviews online, or in some cases contact print publications to do that.
And actually, you indicated in here that if you do want to become a professional writer, this is certainly one way to build up your portfolio a little bit.
Right. You can build up, credits by, first off, you'll probably have to start reviewing for free. That's what I did when I first started reviewing. And one of the things that I put in there, and what everybody needs to kind of look at, is kind of review the books that other people don't want to review. Whenever I first started reviewing for the Daily Oklahoman, a publishing house from California sent me L. Ron Hubbard's book, Old Doc Methuselah. It was a science fiction sort of thing. And I saw it, and never being one to shy, back from doing anything challenging, I thought, well, I'll try this. And Anne DeFrange was working in the book editor, as the book editor in that department. And so I called her and I said, do you think you might be interested in reading a review on this? And she said, sure. She said, write it up and we'll see, how it's going to work. And so I did, and then it just kind of started growing from there. I reviewed for quite a number of years for the Daily Oklahoman, doing books. But start with something, that other people may not be interested in reviewing, and I think you'll get a foot in the door better.
Well, you mentioned also that Amazon.com, you can write, in effect, unsolicited book reviews for just about anything they've got on their, do they have shelves?
Yeah, that's true. That's true, and it's amazing how many people, really trust the reviewers. If they go on there and see that someone has reviewed a book, they'll look at the name and, oh yeah, well this person liked this book, so it'll be okay for me, especially if they're in a specific genre and they like that, and then the same reviewer is reviewing the book. And they'll kind of follow that reviewer. And once you get a name, that's one of our reviewers, Carrie Masick. That's kind of how she started building her name. Well, she did that, and then she has a following now, kind of wherever she goes.
But as you said, there are still a few print sources around that do book reviews.
A few. Not many, but a few. And as a matter of fact, I was talking to someone the other day that writes reviews for a local newspaper, and that's another way. Your community newspaper, contact the editor and talk to them, because I've heard from quite a few, oh yeah, we would like to do book reviews, but who do we get? Who do we get to write them? So contact your local newspaper, and because it'll be a nice way to start out. as well.
Now, actually, this book is not one that you're going to find on bookshelves, is it?
Not yet.
Not yet.
Not yet. It is in e-form. People can go online and order it from Intellectua.com. Intellectua.com's website will take them to the Dream Job series. And on there, Michael Warner, who is the publisher, has, oh gosh, I believe right now there's 36 books up, and he has 91 that he wants to eventually put in this entire series. And you can go online and order the book from there. And at the end of the year, he's going to be putting all these books out in print-on-demand form. So they'll be making their way through the distribution center and into bookstores.
Okay. Now, the print-on-demand, how does that work? Do I just go to Barnes & Noble and say I want the book, and 2 days later they have it?
Well, basically, yes. It may take a little bit longer than 2 days because of our postal service. But you know, they can crank out the books pretty fast, and it just saves publishers a lot of money in the fact that they don't have to store inventory. They can wait until they get orders, and then they'll print the books out and send them out right away. Mm-hmm. So that's how that works.
So it is really changing a lot, but one of the first things you said right off the bat, and this is something I've sort of been aware of for all the years I've been doing this show, is something on the order of 70,000 books are published each year in this country. That's not counting Canadian, British, Australian books.
A lot of books.
A lot of books. And so I think that is why reviews are becoming more and more important. That's the only way most people are going to get noticed when they put a book out.
Yeah, well, that's true. I mean, reviewing, getting your book review is very, very important. It's important to publishers. As a matter of fact, I was a little surprised when someone reviewed the book review book because I thought, wow, that's interesting. Right. But it was a very favorable review, and I was really pleased with it. I was pleased with it.
Well, I was reading through here, and the part where you get down to the basics of what do you need to put into a book review, what kind of background do you need to do a book review, what do you need to be aware of really before you start reading the book. And I was thinking, well, I should have read this about 10 years ago.
Yeah, I wish I had a manual like this when I started reviewing, because I kind of made it up as I went along for a long time. And then I started, reading more different articles, about book reviewing, refining the craft, knowing that as I read a book, it would be a lot easier if I took notes then than, search through the book after I had finished and forgot the setting or the last name of the character and this sort of thing.
What is the name of that dog? He was so cute.
Yeah. I want to put him in this review, but it's not working.
Well, and you, in the book, you interviewed, I think, 3 people who do this, not for a living. We need to emphasize
this is not for a living. No. No, you will not get rich, and chances are a trip to McDonald's will take all of your pay, if you get paid, if you get paid.
No, we're book people. That will buy part of a book.
That's true. That's true, and that's what I would spend mine on.
But they bring their own particular perspective, because they all write book reviews, but it's from different kinds of books. I guess I'm looking for the word genre. Is that what I'm looking for different genres.
For instance, Carrie Masick, she interviews primarily romances. And she has several online places that she reviews for. She also has set up a site because she just reads so much that she just posts her own review up there. Dennis Peterson, I think it could be Patterson. He reviews for print for the Christian Booksellers Association. And there's another house he reviews for, I can't remember, but
Provident or something like that. It's
something
in the book.
Yeah, it is in the book. It is in the book. But he reviews for them, and he gets paid quite well. He had a friend whose name he mentioned, but we didn't include in the book, that reviews and actually gets paid $75 per review, but he also writes a lengthy critique. So that's something a little different, something that someone would really have to work for to get that kind of pay.
Well, I want to thank you very much, Deborah, for being with us.
And thank you for having me.
You're going to be on next month because you've got your own romance book out.
Yes, very exciting.
So we'll see you then, but in the meantime, thank you very much for being with us.
Thank you.
And Deborah has been telling us about her book, Dream Jobs Book Reviewer, which you can access at intellectua.com. Coming up next, we've got Susie Beasley. She'll be talking with Frank Ray about a video that I think you'll find really interesting.
Frank, what is this video you've brought to us, the U.S.-Mexican War?
This is a 4-part video made by Public Service Television about the U.S.-Mexican War, 1846 to 1848. This war was conducted during President James K. Polk's term. He came into the White House under the slogan "Manifest Destiny," which was the divine, almost God-given right that America occupy, or that the U.S. occupy the U.S. continent. We had the Louisiana Purchase territory, which got us to the Pacific. We were negotiating with England for the Oregon territory. That was Polk came under 54-40 fight, and we compromised at the 49th parallel. The only problem was that there was still New Mexico and California. This was Mexican-held territory. We wanted it, and we fought the Mexican War to obtain territory. That was what this was for. We were not attacked. We wanted it for expansion, and the war was fought, a popular war for that matter, at least the first 3/4% of it, for expansion for the territory of New Mexico and California. And of course, as soon as we signed the treaty, Guadalupe Hidalgo in 48, in 49 they found gold in California, so the war paid off. It was worth it.
The rest is history, more history. So General Winfield Scott is the one that...
Winfield Scott was the main chief of staff, the general, but the one that was important was Zachary Taylor. He was the first hero, and immediately was courted by the Whig Party, and became president for just a few months before he died in office in 1850.
So this particular video series is about 4 of them in the series?
Yeah, there's 4 of them in the series. Takes you from the very beginning. Actually starts out with the Texas War for Independence. The Alamo starts there, where we first started bumping with Mexico, and then takes you all the way through the first border clashes, then Scott's invasion at Veracruz, and finally the battle for Mexico City.
Okay. Well, Frank, I know these videos run 60 minutes a piece. It's put out by PBS Video, and very, very interesting history. Would be great for parents and students and teachers and the like, and we'll really appreciate you coming and sharing it with us, the U.S.-Mexican War series, and they can visit our local library and perhaps your local video store, and we'll see you next time. Thank you.
Yeah.
Thanks, Frank and Susie. And now I have a few books for you. This first one is called The Cartoon Guide to Statistics by Larry Gonick and Wolcott Smith. Gonick has written a number of cartoon guides to fairly intellectual subjects. Almost every day we have to deal with statistics, whether we see a news story saying that women have a 1 in 8 chance of having breast cancer, or a salesman telling you that there's been a 25% increase in burglaries in your neighborhood and therefore you need a new alarm, that the incidence of West Nile virus and mosquitoes is not statistically significant, or the latest political poll that ends with a statement that the results are plus or minus 4% accurate. And also, we've all heard that you can prove anything with statistics. Well, once you've read the Cartoon Guide to Statistics, you'll actually know what these people are talking about. You'll know whether lies, damned lies, and statistics is really a good statement or not. And you'll be able to tell if somebody's fooling you a little bit. So Gonick and Smith have done a wonderful job with this. It is very easy to understand, very, very clearly stated. They use illustrations and stories from everyday life to explain and walk you through each step of this. Once you have finished this book, you will have a wonderfully clear idea of what you can do with statistics, how they can be used, and what they actually mean. I think often you'll also be very well aware that when you read news stories or articles in magazines or listen to something on TV, they've left a great deal of the statistical evidence out, and so you really can't judge a great deal until you have all of it. But you will have a good idea of the central ideas of modern statistics, which is the summary and display of data, probability in gambling and medicine, which are two different things, random variables, and so on. Cartoon Guide will give you a good basic understanding of something that's becoming more and more important to us every day. Now, this next book is Flares of Memory, Stories of Childhood During the Holocaust. It's edited by Anita Brostoff and Sheila Cameron. Several years ago, a group of 40 survivors of the Holocaust got together at the University of Pittsburgh in a writing class. Now, the interesting thing about this particular collection of Holocaust stories is that the people who wrote them were either children or young teenagers when World War II began. And so we have the perspective of children watching as, if they were in Germany, as their families slowly fell apart, or in the occupied countries, the sudden and complete change that happened simply because they were Jewish. This is a terrible book to read. In that, I mean, it is very wrenching. It is filled with really ghastly stories. Most of the people that you meet in this are not going to be very nice, but there are good people in here. There are people who risk their lives simply to say a kind word to a concentration camp person or somebody on a train, or just hand them a crust of bread. I would recommend Flares of Memory for anyone who is interested in the Holocaust. Coming up next, we have Kids Corner, and I'll be talking with Rosemary Zarsky about a book just for our young adults. Rosemary, what have you brought for us tonight?
I've brought a sort of spooky tale called Ghost in the Gallery by Barbara Brooks Wallace.
And I take it then that this is a real ghost story.
Well, there's a ghost in it.
Okay.
People think it's an old house that she has come to as a young orphan, thinking it's her grandfather's house, which it truly is, but no one will admit it. And so she's working as a maid there. And everybody tells her to beware the ghost in the gallery, which is, of course, where all the family portraits are hanging in their gloomy glamour, or whatever you want to call it.
Dusty splendor.
That'll do. And you keep hearing voices. Well, she finds out that the voices are really her grandfather, who is kept isolated because of his health, and the caretakers. And she begins to wonder if there's really ghosts in the gallery.
Now, you had told me earlier that she has actually come from China,
Right.
Back to America.
Mm-hmm.
And
her parents went to China, where her father had the bad grace to promptly die, and her mother was a dancer, and so she worked in a dance studio and married the dance master, who also died, and then the mother died. So this lady has had a lot of tragedy in her 11 years of living, but she has handled it. She has just, one foot at a time, I will get beyond this.
And she ends up back in America as a scullery maid, which I think is the lowest form of maid you can be. And still
Pretty close. And it's really, really amazing, because the people that she has to work with, she doesn't know really who's the right person to trust, because nobody's what they seem. And she has a lot of learning to do, but her natural spirit's going to help win her through this very engaging story. I was sitting here flipping pages.
So, in a way, it's almost a coming-of-age story, isn't it?
Very much so. In a Victorian-era America, which is always nice to see how children had to live back then.
Okay. And very briefly, what is the age for this?
This is for 8 to 12-year-olds, pretty much.
Okay, and the title and author?
Ghost in the Gallery by Barbara Brooke Wallace.
Thanks, Rosemary. And remember, this book is available at your library and your favorite bookstore. It's time now for the New York Times bestseller list. We'll start out with hardback fiction. Number 10 on that list is McNally's Chance by Lawrence Sanders, The Jury by Steve Martini, P is for Peril by Sue Grafton, Leap of Faith by Danielle Steele, Blue Diary by Alice Hoffman, Open Season by Linda Howard, Any Way the Wind Blows by E. Lynn Harris, The Fourth Hand by John Irving. Number 2 is Cane River by Lolita Tademi, and number 1 is Suzanne's Diary for Nicholas by James Patterson. On the adult nonfiction list, number 10 is The Truth Is by Melissa Etheridge with Laura Morton, The Botany of Desire by Michael Pollan, Napalm and Silly Putty by George Carlin, Seabiscuit by Laura Hillenbrand, Justice by Dominic Doon, Founding Brothers by Joseph Ellis, Tuesdays with Maury by Mitch Albom, Stolen Lies by Malika Ofkir and Michelle Fitoussi. Number 2 is Ghost Soldiers by Hampton Sides, and number 1 is David McCullough's John Adams. On the children's list, number 10 is Jedi Apprentice, The Ties That Bind by Judy Watson, Shore Thing by Judy Katchke, Junie B. Jones is a Graduation Girl by Barbara Park, Holes by Louis Sekar, Fantastic Beasts and Where to Find Them by Newt Scamander, Quidditch Through the Ages by Kenilworthy Wisp, The Case of the Dog Camp Mystery by Judy Katchke, The Princess Diaries by Meg Cabot. Number 2 is Harry Potter and the Chamber of Secrets by J.K. Rowling, and number 1 is Harry Potter and the Sorcerer's Stone, also by J.K. Rowling. Coming up next, we have Doug Benton of the Metropolitan Library System and the Oklahoma Gazette. He'll be talking with Clyde Martin, a renowned radio, opera host, and actor, and they have a book they really want to share with you.
Thank you, BJ. Doug, you have a book on Ambrose Bierce by Roy Morris Jr.
Yes, Ambrose Bierce was the only American writer of any stature at all to actually live through the Civil War. He was in it for 4 years and survived, came out the other end of it, and wrote a series of truly, I think, spectacular short stories based on Civil War experiences, and is most famous, I think, for being, America's ultimate cynic. Bierce's work makes Mark Twain's later stuff look like Pollyanna. I mean,
yeah.
He was really bitter. In fact, that was his nickname throughout his writing career, Bitter Bierce. Worked for over 20 years for William Randolph Hearst. Desperately wanted to go to Cuba and the islands during the Spanish-American War. Hearst wouldn't let him go. Said he was too old for that.
What age was he at this time?
He was born in the 1840s. I can't remember exactly when he was born. He was a teenager when he enlisted in the Union Army in the Civil War. His Civil War experiences, I think, greatly shaped his attitude later in life. He was profoundly cynical. This book's subtitle is Alone in Bad Company, which is based on a definition from Bierce's book, The Devil's Dictionary. He defines the word alone as meaning in bad company. So that was his opinion of humanity. Most of his money came from being a journalist, although he's best known now for his short stories. Then he was really a world-famous journalist. And if we think some of the things that are written in newspapers about people are bad now, you should see some of the ways he attacked people in his day. Here, from a San Francisco paper when he was there, he wrote this about one of his enemies in town. He says, "His tendency to make improvements is merely a natural instinct inherited from his public-spirited ancestor, the man who dug the post holes on Mount Calvary." Pretty mean-spirited guy. He had a spectacularly unhappy life. His favorite son got into a fight over a woman and ended up shooting his best friend and killing him, and then turned the gun on himself, a story which is all too common today, murder-suicide. Many people have thought over the years that Bierce went down to Mexico during the Mexican Revolution and deliberately antagonized Pancho Villa and got himself shot down there. That's the standard explanation of what happened to Bierce. Morris thinks that what he really did was kind of concoct this Mexico story as a front, and that he returned to the United States, went to the Grand Canyon, and probably committed suicide in a place where his body would never be found, because that's what he said he wanted to do, was to die where his bones would never be identified.
Well, that sounds very interesting, and I think that anyone interested in that entire period from Civil War on up through the turn of the century certainly would be interested in it.
Yes, I think so.
Thank you very much, Doug.
Thanks, Doug and Clyde. With me now is State Treasurer Robert Butkin, and he has a book he'd really like to share with us. And can you tell us the title and the author?
The title is Give Us This Day, and the author is a native Oklahoman named Sidney Stewart.
And what is the book about?
Well, it's about a man's experience as a captive of the Japanese in World War II. I first found out about the book just by accident when I read a New York Times obituary after Sidney Stewart's death a couple of years ago. And it mentioned the fact that he was a native of Watonga, Oklahoma, so that captured my interest. That he'd been captured by the Japanese in the Philippines when the Philippines fell to the Japanese. He was a survivor of the brutal Bataan Death March. He survived the most horrible conditions in Japanese POW camps and prison ships, and yet he survived the war and wrote a very compelling memoir afterwards.
Well, why did you choose this particular book?
Well, I'm interested in how people survive the most horrible experiences that one can face. And for Sidney Stewart, it was largely his faith. Obviously, the experience of seeing most of your friends die, of experiencing the most inhumane treatment at the hands of his captors, led his faith to be tested. But at the same time, he, in a very non-sentimental way, he found comfort in his faith, and his deep faith in God permeates the whole book. And one of the persistent themes of the book is faith can help you endure the most horrible of circumstances.
I take it that might have something to do with the title of the book then.
Well, the title is very interesting. Obviously, it's from the Lord's Prayer, give us this day our daily bread. But the title came about because there was a fellow captive of Sidney Stewart's who was a Catholic priest named Bill Cummings. He was captured by the Japanese as well, and he ministered to the soldiers as they were dying in captivity. And in one experience, they were all on a prison ship called a hell ship. They were confined to the hold of the ship. Men were dying all over the place, and they would call the priest to them to comfort them as they were near death. And it's a very compelling and sad story because the priest was saying the Lord's Prayer to comfort dying soldiers, and as the priest said the words, give us this day, the priest himself died in the middle of the prayer. In other words, the priest was suffering from dysentery, was near death himself. He didn't share that with the other soldiers, and to his very end, he was trying to comfort the other soldiers through seeking prayer and God's help. So it's a very moving title, and it kind of echoes the theme of faith and forgiveness and humility that pervades the book.
So are these the only things that you take away from it, the ability of faith to strengthen us?
Well, there's many lessons that I've learned from this book, and the reason I chose this book is because of the enduring lessons. One, of course, is the importance of faith in times of need. The other one is one of forgiveness. The author found some good even in the hearts of his captors. He was a very compassionate individual, even when he was suffering this captivity. The final lesson is one lesson of gratitude for the sacrifices made by Sidney Stewart and his fellow servicemen in World War II. My generation has not been as tested as his was, but because of their sacrifices, we are free to do all the things that we do. But another important lesson for me is one of perspective. You get so bogged down, particularly in political life, in every little perceived slight and sometimes in petty jealousies. And this book really brings home the importance of faith, family, and basic commitment to service to God and country. And so it kind of helps me keep a perspective in my life. The book is available at the Full Circle bookstore. It's also available through the library system. And it's been recently reprinted in paperback. And again, Sidney Stewart's a native Oklahoman. The author is a native Oklahoman. He talks very warmly about his Oklahoma childhood throughout the book, and after the war, he actually moved to Europe and became a practicing psychologist because of his experiences dealing with the traumatic stress of his captivity. He wanted to help others deal with similar problems in their lives.
Well, thank you very much for being with us. Can you tell us again the title and the author?
The title is Give Us This Day, and the author is Sidney Stewart. Sidney Stewart died several years ago, but he wrote a beautiful and moving memoir of his experiences in the war, and I'd recommend it to every reader.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
We've had with us State Treasurer Robert Butkin telling us about Give Us This Day. Hope you'll join us again next time.